I come from Mufakose, and this is like one of the ghettos that were established primarily to be, shelter for the workforce. And then I've been thinking about this, like, okay, so hands are like the workforce. We like give them commands, and then they execute. And going back to my parents, like they were farmers. My dad was a welder. Mom used to do crocheting, and this is all like focused on hands. Then I grew up to be an artist, married to an artist, like the echoing of just hands, and also just believing like all of my livelihood is just based on how good my hands are gonna be. Yeah. There's the metaphor of the hands representing people. Then there's also like the hands being tools for either destruction or creation.
I also like that you can express a lot of emotions, only depict the hands and not the whole human form.
I think it goes back to just observing how my hands like interact with the hands of the people that I have around me. I have my daughter, my wife, I've got friends and family. So already as somebody thinking about hands, I think about what my hands have done, the good and the bad and everything. And then I see my daughter holding onto my hand like she sees me as this hero, you know. And I try to think of like, hey, she's pure and everything. So when I paint, I'm thinking about that. Like, so what colors can I use, to express the hand, not just as a hand, but also as a personality in a way, as a character that can, show that this hand has been through a lot, and this hand is just like pure, just coming into the picture, still very naive about life and such stuff like that. Yeah. For me, boxing gloves, they mean first of all courage. It takes courage to wear those gloves, and then this is like a metaphor for when you have power, what are you gonna do with it? And then also like taking of responsibility for me, like as a man and everything. Like the moment that you wear gloves, you never know the outcome, and this is gonna be scary because your heart is racing and everything, but you still have to do it. It's about building the capacity first, and then confronting your deepest fears.
So I'm curious, how do you balance between the abstract and the figurative?
The abstract is like the freedom,
Mhm.
to do anything. Because like when I start working, I just want to be like to give it just pure emotion. You know. But every time, like the first mark that you make, it also informs the next mark. The figurative element is like the canvas is speaking. Like, okay, this becomes the end. It's not like I put the hand first, but I started with abstraction, and then the hands kind of comes out of the. So my background comes from printmaking, and printmaking comes with precision and everything. Then I do some mono printing and just mess up with the canvas, and just give it a lot of things. So whatever that I'm feeling, like pour out the emotion, right? So the abstraction comes first. Then then the figuration comes, a little bit of the drawing and stuff. It's like the back and forth of
Oh,
abstraction, figuration. Yeah. So for me, like now I'm like involved in really sketching. Like it's more of what I'm reading or what I'm watching or what I'm listening to, whatever ideas that like are triggered. Then I try to translate that into sketches. Then from the sketches, then they go into canvas. But once like they are on the canvas, then I'm no longer looking at the sketch because I also want like that freedom for the canvas to speak. I want the idea to evolve and to get meaning from the process and doing the work.
and do you feel that you are done with the composition?
Yeah, they'll leave it like what am I gonna do? But I think you just have to get in that mind space where you feel like there's nothing more that can be done to the painting. All that I needed to communicate, like, is there. And sometimes, you overdo it, sometimes you underdo it. But that finding that balance is like, finding the sweet spot. It doesn't happen every time, but when it does, it's like magic. It's like, yeah.
I really like those tiny pictures in the exhibition, and I want to hear if there is some story behind it, or
The idea initially came from like not having enough canvas in my head. But the moment that I started working on them, then as you were saying, they kind of developed into characters because I was like working on them like simultaneously. So I would work like 10, like working on 10 canvases, like one of them. So like just going on to from one canvas into the other, like you're just thinking, so what I'm gonna do different on this one, and what's also like the connection between all of them. So in that way, like the story kind of unfolds itself, and some of them just come out naturally, then others are like, okay, intentionally I wanna do this. Yeah. So but just because they are many, this was that freedom of anything can happen. You don't have the pressure like make a perfect painting, and I really enjoyed that. Like just exploring different lot of things on a very tiny space. Because also tiny space is like concentrate because you can only make certain marks before you overdo it. So you also gotta be like conscious, like okay, I need to put these precise marks. Yeah, it's like writing a haiku poetry.
okay, you mentioned poetry, and I'm curious how your poetry background shaped your art career or your compositions.
You gotta find ways to channel ideas in a way because there are some ideas that can only be expressed in a certain medium. So for me, I just try to become a vessel for whatever form the idea comes. I should find ways to express it. Then I think I don't know. From the longest time, I've always been interested in words and their power, and I think it's more about like just interested in composition, like the arrangement of things. So in painting, it's more of arrangement of colors and everything else. But then in writing, it's just the arrangement of words and like a parallel road, but we linked it somehow.
Your forms are very very fluid, and sometimes it reminded me the letters and the writing, but sometimes it reminds me also the vulnerability of humankind.
I think a lot about metamorphosis, like the process of change, and I like to think of myself as like somebody who's always changing. So like change comes with that fluidity and that movement. Like it's never stagnant. It's always on the go. So when I'm painting, like I wanna have that flow. Yeah, and also when I'm painting, I'm always listening to music and the
Oh,
rhythm and music also plays a big part of it. Like informs how the mark making goes. The tempo also like informs how fast the brush goes and everything else. So it's like the mood then informs the music, then the music informs the painting, and the emotions around it.
now you mentioned music, so I'm curious, how do you connect the rhythm in your works, even if it's a poem or even if it's
It's like trying to find the heartbeat, the core
okay.
of the poem. Yeah. So in a song, like there's the lyrics, there's the instruments, but there's kind of like the heartbeat, the feeling of the song, and that can be connected either in a painting or in a poetry. It's like this just gives me, I don't know whether it's nostalgia or it's something, but it kind of just leaves you in a certain place. So finding that connection when you're like, okay, the things that I'm reading, also the music that I'm listening to, it's got this something that I wanna like also say because it resonates, and when it resonates, it's like okay, that's connection.
How do you choose your colors? Because this actual exhibition, I see a lot of blues and reds.
Colors, the energy. It's like what are you feeling now, and what color can give out that energy.
So
Mm.
I'm curious about the path. how did you come from the nature to the human form to the hands?
I mean, like nature is where all life comes from. So it just felt right, to start from there. Then transitioning to the end, it's like now thinking about, you know, our role as mankind, unto nature, unto shaping, our existence, talking about workforce, talking about, emotion and connecting to each other. And it's more of questioning of also what am I doing with my hands.
You were born and grew up in Mufakose. Is-
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
And I'm curious, how has that shaped you as a person and or as an artist?
The word that comes to mind is like resilience, because this is like a place where, you're tested out. Like it was like a blessing in disguise because, you grew up with a lot of questions, and that's like the raw materials of an artist because you need those questions. You need the struggle to. I think the downside was like there weren't any like many role models. We didn't see any artists. So when I declared it into my family that I want to be an artist, they didn't get it.
And what is the biggest challenge today of being an artist in Zimbabwe?
I'd say like sometimes it's access. It's now a global world, and it always depends on where you're coming from. And sometimes it's not like about how talented you are or how good you are, but sometimes, based on where you are coming from.
You want to express the culture or the history or the colonial past through your paintings.
I mean, for it to resonate, it kind of starts, on a personal level. But then you're also thinking that you're a person who also belongs, to a culture, to a country that is, its own history and everything like that. So yeah, there is a lot of questions about, the cultural context of what has been done to us, so to say. Even the hands talking about, the workforce of also questioning so the rituals of the Shona people, like also honoring what have been and just
Your style change, or how did your thoughts on art change when you become a husband and then a father?
it was crazy because I'm also married to an artist, so then we had a lot of like time that we were sharing the studio. And at that time, there's also been a lot of cross pollination that have been going. Like, if you work in the same space and you spend all the time together and you're looking at the same work, there is bound to be some similarities and everything. And also just becoming a father, like the responsibility to man up, it's just pulls up like, okay, I gotta go hard with this. So yeah, there was definitely an evolution of the work.
So I'm curious, how do you work together in a daily basis?
Yeah, I mean, like it's crazy when we both have deadlines, like because if one got pressure, it's easy to be the sidekick, and just cover up for everything else while the other one just focus on the practice. But when you put have deadlines now, it's like, okay, you have worked enough hours. I want to get in the studio. It's just like of finding the balance. Like I'm a morning person and like I wake up super early, and Amanda enjoys her sleep, and she prefers to work up to night, and I prefer to wake up with the energy. And so there's that we naturally have, like, kind of different clocks in our head where we think we like feel most creative. Yeah, the influence was hard, but like just evolving now, like the practices are like, very different because as much as we are lovers, we also have like different interests and, perspective about lives. But at the same time, like we're always helping each other in the street because when I paint, I'm like always inviting you. So what do you think of the work? Do you think it's finished? What colors do you think? Maybe and she does just the same thing. Like, okay, what do you think of the composition? What's missing or anything like that?
And I wanna know a bit more about your role models, or who are the artists that inspire you.
So at the end of the day, those are the people that I really like. You've seen how their work, evolves, the thinking behind it. So, we can try to name like European masters, but these at the end of the day are just like pictures that I've seen online and everything, but the real experience is like with these guys. So I think those people are the new role models because it's not like just about their practice, but their dedication to their work, which you see in how they are living. And yeah, these guys are like, yeah, test to do their best, and they only allow people who share that same drive in their circle. So when you're coming in the circle, you're going to be tested hard because people will be saying all the hardcore things that you get. When you get a critique, it can really get bad, because they only want the standard of excellence. Yeah, so it's a good training ground, for all young artists, I think. And or once you get into it, then it becomes like, yeah, the mantra of the whole group. It's like that thing that joins everybody. It's like we just wanna like really do our best, and in that way, then you support each other, in all different terms of ways. In terms of just giving each other advice, talking about life, talking about the work. It becomes really a family.
And I also read that you like to use spray as well.
Yeah, I mean, like with printmaking, it's more about precision and the spray paint. It's like bringing that because I used to do murals and stuff like that. So it's like bringing that street vibe still into the painting, and also like the spray. It's got it, it is an underlayer. It's like this clean color which just pops out in a very fascinating way to the eye. So it's like trying to find the strength of each medium of like, okay, like, yeah, it's a lot of alchemy and just trying to find the balance where everything works. When you're like feeling all that intense and you want to express everything, so that's when you're working with fast drying mediums. Uh, but then there's also the process of meditation and agitation where you're like giving the work space to speak to you, and you need those mediums that forces you to wait until it's dry while you're still looking at the work, because there's a temptation to just go into the work. But if you're working with oil, it's gonna be like, okay, wait, watch me, watch me, watch me, listen to me.
Before this series, your paintings had a dreamlike atmosphere. I'm curious, do you see them as a kind of daydream, or it's kind of like escaping from reality?
I like fantasy, like even the movie that I
Okay.
watch. I like science fiction movie and watching anime and stuff, or things like that. So it's like tapping into otherworldly things. Like that's always interesting. Like in a way, it is type of escapism, but it's like, yeah, also finding maybe a metaphor of trying to speak of the things that are happening in this world, but in a manner that is captivating, and it's got like this magical and dream feeling like.
Your early experiments, you were exploring the ingenuity buried in African culture.
I think it still speaks to that, and it's like what I'm saying, just a realization that in a way I am my ancestors' wildest dreams, because it's also like that knowledge that is within your DNA, the thing that resonates beyond generations. And just thinking about how the environment kind of shapes how people react, or how their lifestyle and their culture in a way. So it's like my people have always been here and they've been responding to this environment in a certain way, and we're still in the same space. And what's what are those things that have been echoing, from that time to this time? Yeah, I'm interested in those things. Yeah.
can you preserve tradition and still be in a contemporary artist?
I mean, like, there are certain themes and certain things that we've been concerned about for the longest time, and there are things that I 100 years from now we'll still probably be still questioning those things. So I think the concepts that have been in the past and that are still here, they've been all over through time, but then the materiality of like the medium that then we are now using, and probably the creative process, because there've been so many painters, and just witnessing all of that, it kind of gives you like a starting point. Okay, like this has already been done, this has already been done, but I want to learn something from it, and make it my own, and see when I infuse it with where I'm coming from and the concerns of my people that have existed for the longest time.
What's your plan for the future? And
That post depression after the exhibition that a lot of artists talk about, because you feel like you've emptied yourself, and then you're like starting again. But when you really think about it, like starting again is all that we're gonna do for the rest of our lives. We're gonna work, and this is the cycle. So instead of like being nervous about it, like I'm excited, like okay, after finishing this chapter, and I'm like okay, glad, and like the feedback has been positive, and yeah. So what more can I do? It's like okay, there's this next evolution, yeah, where we are tapping into this previous chapter, but also trying to do something new, which is the blank canvas. It's always scary when it's blank, but the moment that you put the first mark, it's like okay, let's it's already happened. You might as well just go with the flow. Yeah, and when you go with the flow, then that's how you discover the interesting things, the things that you want to keep. And yeah, there's some things that you want to let go. Yes, it's finding that balance. But yeah, I'm actually working on a new board of work, and yeah, it's exciting. It's